This is crazy. This event has taken months of planning and years of dreaming. But seriously, I remember being in grad school and thinking, when I had finished my manuscript in 2010, would it be great to celebrate the completion of one art form with another? I've always believed that art should respond to art. Art reviews, criticisms, music reviews, there should be an art quality to that. That there's a dialogue that's happening between art forms. And I was a musician before I was a writer, and so I think I just naturally think collaboratively the way a band might. And so that this is happening is insane to me. I'm also reminded that, so I finished the first major draft of this book in 2010. And for 5 years I worked on it and also pitched it to publishers and was rejected countless times. And the reason I always came back said that people loved the writing, but there was no audience for it. That they didn't think that it was something they could market to. Because if you mention religion at all, it's thought of as you're either proselytizing or you're damning whatever it is you're talking about. And so people kept saying, there is no audience, and now there are like 160 people here. And you're the entire audience, so that's... Thank you for all gathering in one room. So I have to say some thank yous because, again, the whole point is that art doesn't happen by itself. It doesn't happen in isolation. It may be created that way, but it has to exist in community. So thank you so much to Cabot, to Renee and Casey and all the staff here. Being able to use this space is just mind-blowing. The renovations are amazing. I haven't seen it today. And there's such a long history here. It feels so appropriate to be doing this, with focusing on local art and what is a beacon of local art. This place is such a storied past. So that's a big deal for me. Also, thank you to the Beverly Cultural Council, without who I could not have dreamed of an event of this stature in this kind of locale. So thank you so much to the council. They're such a good resource for local art. And to what we're decided to call the Beverly Art Salon, this is the inaugural event for that. And if you'd like to learn more about that, please talk to us after. But thank you so much to the people that have been involved in the making of this, all the artists, Maya, Marika, Kaylee, John, Grant, other John, Peter. So amazing. If you didn't get a chance, if you came in just in time for this and didn't get to go upstairs, there'll be a reception after, so please go up to the second floor. Check out the amazing artwork. My wife Natalie will also be playing a little set. Music with our friend Victoria. So please stick around for that. Check out the art. Talk to them. This is the point. Get artists in a room and let you ask questions. Hopefully there's a genre of art that you don't normally experience on a live level. So hopefully we've exposed you to something new. Also to Mark, who, like he said, although he left out how bad some of those original writings were, the first play that I wrote was about a white boy from New Hampshire that wanted to be a writer and was really frustrated about all the other people in his writing class about being so much better than him. I wasn't writing Memoir yet. It was fiction. And I think, I thank Mark for encouraging me to keep going, but also to never really let me know how bad that stuff was. Because you have to lie to yourself a little bit when you've got this spark to create, and it takes time to get to that content that really means something to you. So it's so much to have him as a mentor. Also, my parents are here, which is awesome, so thank you to them. I knew that would happen. That happened maybe for the first time in a junior high basketball game, and will continue to happen. Maybe even a little more tonight, who knows? So I told it out of order, and that's so that the themes are more pronounced, that you can see that, because a life isn't like a novel, it doesn't move in this perfect arc. So to help bind that book together, I wrote these kind of poetic little blurbs before each chapter. So I'll read the poem first, and then I'll read this sort of mini blurb that introduces the chapter and the chapter itself. And also one last bit of proviso. I'm going to read a sadder chapter, which I thought about this a lot, and when I started writing, it was because of people like David Sedaris, who I found hilarious, and I thought I could do that slice of life thing. I could talk about my childhood growing up at this small Christian school. And the more that I wrote it, the more it just felt like rim-shot jokes, like it wasn't landing on the page. And there are things that work really well in conversation that don't work well on the page. You have to bring something else. This is when people think they can be funny, they're really funny naturally. They're not always funny writers, at least not at first, because there's a different attention. So for me, this book really exploded when I was encouraged to explore the narrative when my father passed away when I was 4. And it was a detail that I wasn't afraid to engage with. I just didn't think that was the book for it. And it turned out it really was, and it changed the whole thing, and really changed the scope of the book and brought it to where it is now. So it seems fitting for me to read that piece tonight. And as an example of that, so when I was 6, I had this paper route, and there was an older woman, Paul and my parents are laughing, they already know, that used to sit on her stoop with her dog Princess. And it was a 15-house paper. It should have taken me 12 minutes, maybe. It used to take me like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Because this woman, Mrs. Teets, T-E-E-T-Z, would talk endlessly. And at 6, you don't get the joke. You're not thinking nickels. You're thinking, how do I get out of this conversation? But you can't, because you haven't learned to excuse yourself. Like, you're 6, And it usually ended with her handing me a Charleston Chew, of which she had Charleston chewed. I mean, there was lipstick on it. There were bags of candy that she would hand me that had cigarette butts in them. At one time, my parents found them and confronted me at 6. What is this? And I was like, I wouldn't know the first thing. And it was Mrs. Teets. So I wrote that into the book at one point, and it was not funny. It just felt forced, because, one, it sounds made up, that you have a character named Mrs. Teets. It seems impossible. So it's not in the book. And so that's kind of where I learned, there are differences for that. And so this piece, and actually, to be honest, Mrs. Teets is dead, as is Princess. Before Joyce Teets died. And so that's it. This is a topic we have to deal with. Grief is a thing that, as a culture, I don't think we know how to talk about, let alone know how to process internally. And for me, that's a big part of this book, is figuring out how to make those internal processes something somewhat public, at least in our communities, and figure out how to make through some of these hard things. So I'd like to dedicate this to Joyce Teets and Princess. And actually, I think of Joyce Teets as someone who would give her dog a last name, so this is also to Princess Teets.